Hello and welcome back to Streamer Consciousness, a podcast talking all about a person's thoughts and conscious reactions to events perceived as a continuous flow. My name is Gideon, I go by Gidawid. This is the second half of the podcast that I did with Thea Trinidad, the professional WWE Superstar. She is an amazing, amazing person, and the rest of this podcast is wonderful. So much to learn from it. And I would just also like to thank the people that listened to the last episode and are now patrons of Patreon for Streamer Consciousness. We currently have 5 patrons, so I just want to say a massive thank you to all of those people who have been so generous to reach out and help support the stream, the podcast in that way as well. So thank you so much to those people. And I hope you enjoy the rest of this episode. And it's tired right now. It's tired. I'm tired right now while I edit this. So I appreciate you guys putting up with me. But let's roll on into it. I want to get through these questions before I feel like we're going to run out of time. But you mentioned Lita being one of your favorite wrestlers in the past, and her career was turned on its head with her instance with Matt Hardy and with Edge, and that obviously got turned into a storyline. How did you feel seeing that, and how far would you go when it came to a storyline? Like where do your morals lie in terms of something like that? Obviously you're married and all that stuff, but in terms of like how far do you feel like would be comfortable for you going with a storyline?
I've never been asked that before, so touche.
Thank you.
Good, very good, because that's when I had initially seen it, I was heartbroken because, well, my husband thinks it's Tom, hilarious. Yeah. Ha. But no, I was like heartbroken at the time because I loved Matt and I loved her. Like it was just, that's like your favorite couple, like just, and then when you hear about like the way he tells the story, it's really sucky. Like it's, and that everybody knew was like the root of it. Like that's like the reality of it. And then when you're watching it on TV, you're like, okay, well that's what they spun it to, but it wasn't really that far. Like I remember Matt telling me that there was like a backstage fight between him and Edge, and he had grabbed Edge's hair and ripped it out, but it was like real. Like he had Edge's like full hair like in his hands, and that's how angry he was, and that's how real it got for them. Like they agreed to keep it professional and to let it play out on screen, but I mean ultimately there is obviously, like, I gotta imagine feelings, like real feelings in there. So it was heartbreaking. I was like, man, I still love her, but like now I'm starting to dislike her because of this situation. But at the same time, that's what they wanted because they were the bad guys. It became Edge and Lita, and they were like this power couple. They were just like bad and sexy and just, and you're like, man, if you would have just stayed with Matt, you guys would have gotten married and had babies and it would have been great. And, but as far as where I would go,
because obviously their storyline got to the point of them, going to have sex on Raw, and they had a bed on stage in the middle of the ring, and Amy said she felt uncomfortable with that, but felt like she had to go along with it in terms of where the story was going. So
yeah, so I feel like when it comes to stuff like that, I didn't exactly hear everything that she had to say about that situation, but ultimately everybody's experiences with management is going to be their experiences with it. Whatever happens with them is going to be handled with them, and I feel like no one will ever really know the true like story of what actually happened besides her and them. But especially back then, I feel like things weren't PG back then. They weren't, things were different. So whatever went on then obviously isn't a representation of the company now.
Of course.
But it's like that was such an extreme moment. Same with like Vicky Guerrero and Edge, also another one. But when you saw that, you were like, Vicky, like you're like everybody's like, oh my god, she's disrespecting Eddie, and like how could she like marry Edge? And but you were so sucked into the storylines. They took you on a cinematic adventure, and that's really what it was all for. And whether things were uncomfortable or whatever it is, they ended up making a moment in history that people will never forget, whether that's for a good reason or a bad reason.
For sure.
It's something that people will always remember. And I think that WWE is really good at making moments that people will take with them forever. So
yeah, it's polarizing. And ultimately, if you can create discussion or debate between people going, hey, this is right or this is wrong or this person's in the right, then it creates traction and people can talk about that stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Has there been a storyline where you were like, this makes me feel a little bit icky, or has there been a moment where you've been like, yeah, I'm a bad bitch, like this is me, like I'm being Jeremy Irons right now. I'm doing the long live the king, like that moment at all, or?
Oh man, but those moments I lived for. Like I loved those moments, right? So like I remember the day they told me that I had to poison someone, like pour poison into somebody's drink, and I was like, wow, we've taken it to that point. Okay. Okay. Well, I'm about to be like universally hated now, but that's totally fine. No, but there was never a moment where I was like, no, this is when they initially hired me, they wanted me to be Andrade's girl. And right away, him and me were like, like we were just like, no way. And not because like he's an unattractive guy or anything. It's not like that. It was more so like we wanted to be taken seriously as a pairing, So like it had more to do with like how can we make this different, because there were so many relationshipy kind of things. Like Lana and Rusev were a couple, and like so, and then if you think about people in time, you're like, okay, Edge and Lita, they were a couple. Like it was just so we want to make it different. And they came up with the idea of having me just as his manager, but like as the what was the word? Can we curse on here? I don't know.
Yeah. Feel free.
As like the boss bitch. Like that's what they wanted me to be. They wanted me to be like this, like take no shit kind of girl. Like they just said, whatever it is, like you don't care how small you are. Like you're just larger than life in your head. So that was like the only moment where we ever said, maybe we don't do that. Is there a way to make it better? And then they did, and it was like lightning struck, and we became like this, thing. But would we been against it? Would we been like, oh no, I'm not signing here if you make me his girlfriend? No, of course not. But there's never been any pressure that was towards me. I remember like anything that they even had questions, like if I might feel some kind of way about it, they always spoke to me about it. Like when I had to slap my now husband,
that's an iconic moment now in history, for sure. Getting that is one hell of a slap if you guys haven't seen it, by the way, either. So.
That was yeah. It was weird because I don't like slapping people. I really don't. And it's because I've been slapped before and my eardrum has been ruptured, so I don't like to do that to people. But I'm super safe with my slaps, by the way. But it was him, and I was like, I just don't want to do that.
Of course.
But I remember Triple H going like, it's gonna be so good.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I spoke to him. He's 100% fine with it. Like, so then I spoke to him too. I was like, we're good. We're okay. Okay. As long as you guys are okay with it, I'm okay with it. And that was like such a professional way to handle it, because it was like, okay, we know that obviously slaps to the face, they do hurt. So how can we handle this in the best way possible and make sure everyone was comfortable? And he was just like, if you do it once and you do it good, we won't have to do it again.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, cool. So when it happened, I just remember like in my head, it was like, bah. And I went, like in my head, I was like, oh, but he like kind of took it and he was like, all right, okay. And I was like, okay, he's good. I could tell he's good. He's good. And, but that was such a cool moment because I remember I was like, people were expecting Andrade to come out with a title, to sign this contract. And it was just me, just walking out as if I was like, and I walk down, I do this whole thing. Oh, he's not, you're not worth our time kind of thing. And by the end of it, I was the one that got made an ass out of. So it was cool because people wanted to see that. And I was the one that they had built up so much hatred towards that when somebody finally got their hands on me, it meant more.
Yes.
So, it was, I love that. I love setting up the pin so people can knock it down. It's just those moments I really love.
Yeah, it's a way of diffusing a situation as well, because there's that level of, I think that's what's really good about the storylines, is there's always a really good level of karma or like redemption for the arc. Characters who are doing wrong things or bad things get bad things done back, or they learn the error of their ways, and I think that's always been really, really interesting to see. You've mentioned there about sort of we touched briefly on it being a different era back then when the whole Edge and Lita stuff was going on, and there was a moment I was watching or listening to a podcast where she was on, and she was talking about how she said she was so skinny at the time, and people were saying how good she looked, and she said, I have ulcers, I don't eat, I don't sleep, but I'd say like, cool, thanks to those people. Did you ever feel any pressure when it came to your appearance when it comes to that stuff?
The only pressure I've ever felt when it came to my appearance was my own. It was really just, you feel like you're competing with yourself. And if you look, okay, at this point during this match, I looked really good, but now it's like, I don't look as good here. Why is that? And like, especially coming from someone who used to have like a eating problem, like it's something that you kind of get back in your head about sometimes, where you're like, oh, maybe I should do this, and maybe I should do more cardio, maybe I should do this or whatever. And it's really just the pressure that you put on yourself, So for me, it was never coming from them. It was just more so me, because I wanted to be the best that I could be and look the best that I possibly could. So, no, I never really felt any pressure really from them, but it's that came with everything, like even with my promos, like and I had a lot of freedom, like most people. Like there was some people that didn't have that, and I think it was because I gained their trust, and a part of that was showing them that anything that they threw at me, I can handle. Whether it was something that changed on the fly 5 minutes before I had to go out there, or not having a script and going out there and being able to hold the crowd or whatever. Those are things that you have to earn over time. And for me, after a while, they were just like, okay, here's what we kind of want you to talk about. Here's like a skeleton, just fill it in with your Selena isms. And this make it work, make it good. I was like, all right, cool. And they're like, and just maybe turn up the like feistiness a little bit on this part and this part. Done. Easy, so but that's something that I've always felt like is really strange for me, because I was never confident when it came to like promo stuff. Like when I was in middle school, I had to present like a science project, and I was so nervous to talk in front of people. I remember just like starting to speak, but no sound came out of my mouth, and then realizing that people realized that, and then I started sweating profusely, and then I had like a mini panic attack. Like I couldn't talk in front of people. It was really, really difficult for the longest time. And I don't know when it happened. I want to say maybe around the time I was starting to get into wrestling, because I realized that I didn't have to be Thea. I could be a different person. And that person is confident. And that person knows what she's talking about. That person doesn't stutter. That person doesn't sweat when they talk or whatever. And I think plugging my brain into whoever that was that was what did it for me, you know. So that's it's a funny thing because Thea, not so much. Thea was always very like shy and very like, you know, would rather not be the person talking in front of the class and whatever. But Zelina was just like, sup, like, let's go, you know.
Women often have been sexualized on Twitch as well. What are your thoughts on that when it comes to how women are treated on streaming platforms?
So I have two thoughts on this. The one side of it is, of course, we don't like it, right? For me, especially someone who's dealt with stuff like this, whether it's through Twitch or through Instagram. Twitter's the worst, like the most toxic place ever. But you know that's what's going to come at you regardless. Like, it's unfortunate, but when there's such thing as anonymous profiles or whatever, like, people are going to say whatever they're going to say because they're behind a computer screen or behind a keyboard, so they can say what they want and there's no repercussions. So for me, it's like, I knew going into whatever it is, if I'm going to open myself up to something, I have to also be understanding of the fact that that's going to come too, unfortunately. And just how you handle that. So for me, like, even just the other day, somebody came in and they donated for a text to speech thing, and their name was the N-word, and their caption was, "Send me your nudes." And it's like, so instead of making a huge deal out of it, I just removed it quickly, had the person banned, and then I had like the name sent to somebody that can like kind of block the whole thing from coming towards me, whether it's through Instagram, Twitter, whatever. I have somebody that makes it easier so that I don't have to deal with that person, like, in total. And because again, if you make a big deal, that's what they want. They want that kind of attention, you know? So like, it's sucky that it has to be that way. But I feel like if you're just a woman in general, like, I mean, it happens to men too, you know, like, for being real about it, like, it happens a lot to men. But I also think being cautious of what you're putting out there is important too. You know, like, I see a lot of things that, you know, I remember people like looking at Pokimane and they're like, oh, you know, like, she's dressing like a this, or she's doing this, or she's walking away from a camera on purpose so people could see her butt, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, or she just needed to go and get water or go to the bathroom or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So it sucks that, and she could not be wearing anything provocative at all.
Yeah.
Like, I remember seeing like she was wearing like sweatpants one time and like a regular t-shirt, and people were like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I was like, wow, that's all it takes, huh? Just that. Damn, well, then I'm going to stop buying all these really cute outfits and just say, screw it, go with sweatpants and then freaking, you know? But I just felt really bad for her because I was like, man, like, it's just the more eyes you have, the worse it becomes. And I can't imagine the kind of harassment like someone like her will go through, and not even be, and I don't want to use the word asking for it because no one is ever asking for it, right? But it's not like she's like wearing lingerie on her streams or something. No. You know, that's what kills me, is that she's not asking for that. She's not like putting herself out there to get that kind of like, you know, reaction. So I could never understand. I remember telling my husband, I was like, she's literally doing nothing. She's just sitting there, and it's coming to her. I can't imagine like other people. It's just, it's mind blowing to me. And it sucks that is the case. But for me, the way I've handled it is just like giving it as little attention as possible and just trying to like get rid of it quickly, send it out, move on. Because if I go, oh my God, this person says this and that, like, it's going to become a huge thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, but then like I see some streamers, which I couldn't understand this. I saw like somebody on Twitch, like, writing names on their body of like, if they gift subs or donations or something, they were like writing like people's names all over the bodies, and they were wearing like a really tiny outfit. And I was like, well, you know, I was like, that's just, it's sucky because again, these comments are coming towards you. But at the same time, it's like, I think that person knows this, they're okay with it, and they've figured out a way to make it work for them. So there's two sides of it. It's like, it's going to come either way. how do you handle it? I think that's really the biggest thing. For me, it's just get rid of it quickly. Some people are like, hey, I'm monetizing off of that. Either way is totally fine.
I feel like the main problem is the fact that it's even something that you're just going to have to deal with. Like even hearing you say that, just being like, it's something that's going to happen, is the real unfortunate scenario. Is that unfortunately happens to a lot of female streamers. And like you said, it does happen to male streamers as well. But even recently, me and my girlfriend, who also streams on Twitch, we posted up on Twitter my Instagram DMs versus her Instagram DMs. And it was just a picture of one person saying, hey, I love the podcast and what you're doing. Keep up the good work. And that was sent from a female who just sent that to say something nice. And then on the flip side of what was sent to her, it was something that I can't say, but it's the equivalent of oh, whoops, that's the wrong button. You know, like whatever it was, it doesn't matter exactly as to what was said, but it was derogatory and sexualizing her and all that stuff. And we posted it up not to highlight the fact that it happens as the main thing. It was more to see the reactions that we'd get on the posts from people. How would they respond to me posting it? We posted the exact same thing, the same image, and we just wanted to see whether or not I'd get a different response of people saying, hey, oh, this is horrible that it's happened to her, or you know, I got the responses as well of people being like, oh, why would you leak my DMs? You know, like people trying to joke about it, people trying to laugh it off.
Wow.
And then on her side as well, you still had people trying to laugh it off too, being like, why would you leak me saying that? And it's like, do you really want to be associated saying that kind of thing? You know, like it was really interesting. And we looked at like the impressions in terms of how many likes each of our posts got and stuff. It was really fascinating to do, just to see how that would go. But yeah, it's really unfortunate the way women are treated on social media in general. And I always find it really interesting talking to people, especially empowering women like yourself, who take it in their stride, in terms of, like you said, it's not something that phases you. It is unfortunately a part of being on social media. But you definitely have found a way of moving past it and dealing with that on a regular basis.
It's funny though, because the same thing that you said, people are like, oh, why are you outing me for doing this? I did that once. Actually on Twitch, they're like, read us your DMs or whatever. I was like, okay, if you really want me to. And I did, and somebody had like sent another DM saying, why would you talk about me during your streams and blah blah. I was like, oh, so if you got the balls to say something, but not for people to see it. So you need to know that if you're gonna send me something, you need to be ready for everybody and their mother to see it. Because like somebody had sent their number and they're like, oh, they sent me as a tweet. I guess they thought they DM'd it or whatever, and they sent it as a tweet and said, hey, my number is 917 da 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 da, and call me. And I retweeted it and I said, hey, I'm not gonna call you, but anybody else who wants to call him, feel free. You know, so it's like people, I swear, like they're just so oblivious sometimes, I guess. And what the ones that do kind of bother me are the ones that are entitled. Those are the ones that really piss me off, because it's just like they demand things, you know, like I'm going to do this to you, or if you don't do this, I will geolocate you and kill you. And it's like, oh, word? Try it. Because like I can't even tell you, there's been, especially like with WWE too, like a lot of the girls get death threats too.
Yeah.
And we have to like alert the security, and then we have to make like a case, and you always have to do like you have to take everything seriously, because there's, you know, like there's been times where like one of the girls had somebody that was stalking her in her backyard, somehow got into her house, and like almost killed her. Like he threatened to kill her.
Mm.
I don't know how she got away from him or what. I don't know what the thing was, but he ended up going to jail and whatever. But like knowing that situation happened, we've always had to take everything like super serious because that could happen to any of us. And you know, so when these people are making these jokes like, oh, I'm gonna do this or da da, I'm like, okay, cool. I hope you don't mind catching a case then, because just make sure, like, you know, like the cops are gonna know about this, and like the people who need to know are gonna know about it. So I also think that making sure people are what's the word, like you're gonna take responsibility
They're held
for what you're
accountable for their
doing.
actions.
Yeah, because you know, it's all fun and games until you get a call from the cops and going, hey, you know, and I feel like that's where things need to change a little bit. Like people, there's got to be some kind of accountability, like somewhere. There has to be some kind of responsibility taken for something, you know.
Yeah, it's especially interesting hearing you say that about people. You know, they're going to catch a case, and there are so many female streamers out there who don't have the luxury of being able to contact the police and then be taken seriously when it comes to stuff like this, and they're experiencing the same kind of stalking issues and stuff on a daily basis. It's really sad that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah, wasn't Valkyrie? There was something with her too. Like someone was stalking her too recently. I feel like I read that somewhere.
There's the potentially, I don't think I've read about Ray, but Sweet Anita is another prime example of
Yeah.
somebody that's constantly dealt with stalking, and again, she is a wonderfully engaging person and always speaks so truthfully about what's going on, but again, it's something that isn't seemingly taken as seriously as it should be.
Yeah.
In recent history, Twitch has made it so that VPNs, if people are using virtual private networks, they can't talk in your chat anymore. It doesn't show up. So people have to be on an IP that can be tracked, which I think is really interesting. A lot of people were complaining about it. I feel like from a safety measure, it's a very good thing to know that people are going to have to be held accountable for what they're saying. Otherwise, if they're saying things that are like death threats and stuff like that, that they could be taken as evidence and used. So yeah,
good on you, Twitch. Hell yeah.
What else have we got here? How has being a professional wrestler impacted your streams?
I feel like initially, a lot of the people who came in were wrestling fans, and it made it easier for me to kind of interact with them. And we can always talk about storylines, and we can always, it was really easy. I feel like that transition was easy, especially there was like a lot of really supportive people on there, especially if they know who you are. But then the cool thing is now, as I'm figuring out whether that was Twitch Rivals with you guys or, you know, doing my birthday stream, having DK come in, or doing Hafu's lobby with like her and Five Up and Toast and whatever. People are now coming in and going like, oh, I saw you on Hafu's stream, or I saw you on DK stream, or whatever. And it's cool now to get people from like another audience, you know? So it's, wrestling fans are cool to have. I guess it's your base, you know, and like they're like your core fans, and they're going to support you no matter what platform you're on, which is an absolute blessing. I love that. And you know, because they're so passionate, you know, so it's always really cool to have. But then now getting introduced to a whole new, and mind you, they'll also go to like other streamers, or they'll like gift a sub to you know, Pokemon or something, going like, oh my god, I really hope she gets to play with Valkyrie or this person or whatever. And they will go and be your little like I guess like connections or whatever, and they'll like tell, oh, we have to get these people to play together. Like they call it like dream booking. My like dream booking is like Thea playing against like whoever in this match, or like, or maybe I'd love to see Thea and Hafu as the imposters in this game, or whatever. Ended up happening, which is really strange, because I was like, oh, I just, you don't think about it whenever you're playing Among Us. You never know who's going to be your partner.
Yeah.
And for some odd reason, whether it was, and I remember seeing all of the wrestling fans like in Hafu's chat because some of them didn't even know about me. And I had brought Lita into that lobby that day. So it was like Hafu and me and Lita, and we were just in this lobby. And you just see all the wrestling fans going, oh, I remember when Lita did this, or like, you know, I love The Rock because this, or whatever it is. And back to back, it was like I got imposter with, I think it was 5 up first, and then it was DK, and then it was Hafu, but they were all in a row. And I was like, there's no way. It's like, there's just no, because like how, right? Like how could you be imposter 3 times back to back and have them not like suss you out for the same BS you try to pull in the last 2 games, you know? But it didn't. I have no idea how. And I was like, okay, this is like the trio of awesomeness, and like this is like the holy trinity of like my best freaking like Among Us games ever. And you know, but that's what they're calling it now. Like some of the wrestling fans in the chat are like, oh, you know, we should go and like have a new lobby with like, maybe we could bring Paige in this one, and we could, you know, it's just it's cool. They're so passionate about it, which I really love. Like there's someone there's someone in Paige's chat that's like, I need to see you and 5 Up in the same stream. I need to see you guys in the same stream, or else I'm not satisfied. And I see this person going around and going to 5 Up stream, and I see them, they're like, hey, you need to play with Paige, or this, that. And I was like, you guys are so funny. I love it. Passion. I love it.
For sure. There's definitely passion behind it. You brought up us playing in Twitch Rivals, and the experience of being imposter during that. I had to 1v7 the entire lobby at one point during that, and I don't think I've ever 1v7'd officially.
Oh really?
No. It's especially when I was playing with Hafu and DK and people. They are on your case about everything all the time. So there was at one point when we just started playing the game and stuff, and Hafu was still figuring things out, that I have a YouTube video on my channel of me basically begging for them to look the other way so that I'd be able to get a YouTube clip and be like, hey, I 1v7'd everybody, and they were like, oh no, we don't know who it is. But yeah, managing to do that on Twitch Rivals was an experience for sure.
Super sick. I
had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah. Kudos to you. I was so mad when you sussed me out that one game. I was like, oh man. But it was that one thing, right? The girl, her gimmick was that she didn't lie. She never lied. And that's how you figured it out. And I was like, damn it.
I feel like that's an important factor when it comes to Among Us anyway. When we first started playing as well, for me, it's very much about telling the truth. It makes it more believable. So for example, if I'm the imposter and there's a body on the floor in the room, that's not me lying. There is a body in the floor on electrical, but I just don't have to tell them that I'm the one that stabbed it. You know, right. It's like I can still be truthful with what I'm saying without sticking my foot in my mouth. So I think that's always been really important, and that was highlighted early on when I told a lobby when I was imposter that I killed 2 people. I told them during my speech that I murdered somebody in cold blood, and they continued to move on past it because I said it truthfully in such a way that sounded convincing that they just weren't listening to that. They were looking for the other evidence, and that was a fascinating video.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I think it just goes to show at that point that people really do need to listen to what people are saying as well. So yeah. In terms of being truthful and being able to sell yourself, I guess, in terms of those moments, we can talk about your acting career as well. Yeah. and what it's been like for you. Obviously, you were in a movie in the more recent years where you played AJ Lee as the Divas champ in Fighting With My Family. Do you want to tell us about how that came to be and what it was like filling somebody else's shoes?
So funny little background though. I knew April when we first, or AJ, when we first started. She started like a year or two earlier than I did. I would say maybe 2 years earlier than I did, but I met her in New Jersey. Because I trained around like the tri-state area in New York. So it was like New York, New Jersey, like Connecticut area. And I met her there, and I remember thinking like, oh, she's really cool. Like she's tiny like me, like, whatever. And I was still like really, really green, like super new. And then we had like a show in Long Island that we went to go do in New York. And I just remember just talking to her. Like we were like on the side of the ring, we were just talking for a while and realizing that we had a lot in common. And I was like, oh, this girl's really cool. So like I knew her prior, but we were never like best friends. We were just, we were cool with each other. And even when she went to NXT, because like first she went to NXT and then you went to the main roster. When I had went to NXT for a tryout, like she was there and always just really sweet to me. So like we always had a really good like relationship. Even when I went on to do extra work when she was on the main roster, same thing. Like she would always go out of her way to talk to me, and we were cool. So when at this point in my life, I remember thinking like, wow, this audition didn't work out for this movie, and this didn't work out for this thing, and WWE said no again for the 8th time. I'm like, I'm losing my mind. Like I remember texting Dwayne, and I was just like, I'm at the end of my rope here. I feel like quitting. Like I'm just done. Like with everything. Like I'm over it. And he's like, I'm working on something. Give me a few days, and I'll call you. So all right, cool. So it was a Saturday, actually. It was a Saturday because NXT TakeOver was on, and that was like their pay-per-view on the Saturday before like the main roster's Sunday pay-per-view. And I was watching NXT. I remember Andrade was actually on the pay-per-view, and I'm watching him. And I got a call from William Regal, and he's like, hi, Thea. Just a quick question. Do you speak Spanish? And I was like, I mean, kinda, sorta, yeah. And he's like, actually, I don't think it matters. I'll call you back. And he hung up. And I was like, okay. Like I knew it had something to do with Andrade, though. I knew it had to be, because there was no way that it was that much of a coincidence that I'm watching him and I get that call. I was like, something's going on here. And then next thing I know, I get a call from Tommy Dreamer, and he's like, hey kid. And he's very monotone. Anybody knows him, he's very monotone. You never know like when he's serious or when he's not. And he's like, hey, so I'm doing like this podcast thing with Edge and Christian, and they want you to be a part of it. Would you be up for it? And I was like, yeah, hello. Like and he's like, I think it's gonna happen during WrestleMania weekend, so I'm probably gonna need you to come in, and we'll do this at that. Okay, cool. Sounds good. I'll let you know when it's confirmed. All right, bye. And I was like, okay, cool. And this, it sounds like such a crazy story because literally all 3 of these calls happened in the same night, and they had absolutely nothing to do with each other. Then I get Dwayne's call, and he's like, hey, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm just watching NXT and hating life, the usual. And he's like, well, so I'm doing this movie, and he gets into the whole thing. He's like, I'm doing this movie right now. Like it didn't even sound like, hey, I'm proposing this to you. It just sounded like, here's what I'm doing with my life right now.
Yeah.
Like he was like, yeah, I'm doing this thing, blah, blah. I'm also doing this movie about Paige, Paige, right? And I was like, yeah, I've known Paige since she was like, however, like I've known her forever. And he's like, yeah, we're doing this movie. Like, I don't know if you saw this this documentary on her life, but I'm turning it into a movie. It's gonna be really cool. And I was like, oh, that's cool. He's like, yeah. And there's this scene, like, throughout the movie she's gonna be sprinkled in, but there's this scene at the end, like, where she's like, do you remember when she came in the night after WrestleMania and she defeated AJ Lee and she won the championship? He's like, we're gonna recreate that whole thing. And I was like, that's gonna be really cool. He's like, yeah, and I want you to be AJ Lee. You don't even have to audition for the part. It's yours. I know you can do it. And I was like, yeah, I was like completely taken. What? I feel like I didn't hear him right. I was like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, like AJ, like she's this, that, she was this person. I was like, nah, I know who she is, but what did you say? And he's like, I want you to play her in my movie. I need you to be my Divas champion. And I was like, what? So it was like shock came first, and then like the waterworks came after. Like I just had, yeah, I was, and I think at that point it felt like the light at the end of the tunnel, because I felt like during that point it was just like nothing but dread. It was like everything was going wrong. And then my dog had just passed away. Like I just felt like it was the worst part in like my life. It was just awful. And but then that call happened and I was like, okay. And I'm the type of person too where it's like I never believe anything until it's on paper, done, whatever. Yeah. And he understood that too. He was like, no, I know. It's just how wrestlers think, and he's like, but don't worry. He's like, I got you. I always said that I got you from day one. Like, we're going to do this. It's going to be great. Blah, blah, blah. I'll set everything up. So then within like, I want to say a few hours later, I had like my itinerary already. I had like, because he knew I was getting really, because like I get anxious when it comes to like things happening. If I know it may happen, the sooner it's done and figured out, the better. And like he already had sent out an email and connecting me with the directors, the producers, everything. Like he had everything done. And he's like, okay. And then he called me back. He's like, okay, so I need you to help me though. He's like, you're the only wrestler, like real wrestler on this movie besides me. So I need you to be like my eyes, my ears. I need you to pick the right people for this. So I had to pick the stunt double for the main actress. And he's like, I need you to try them out. I need you to work with them, see who's going to be the best one, looks wise, like movement wise, everything.
Yeah.
And I was working with Dave Taylor, who's like incredible, just like one of the best people ever. He was helping me train the girls, and he's a legend. So it's just funny because Dave's also the kind of person that he's very blunt, I guess is the right way to say it. So I was a little hesitant when we finally picked the girl. Her name was Tessa. When we finally picked her and we didn't pick the other ones, I was like, damn, I don't want to go in there and tell them that they didn't get it. I need someone. He's like, I'll do it. Oh my God. And then he walked in and he was just like, all right, kid, we're choosing you. You two, sorry. And I was like, that was your big way of doing this? That was it? And I was just like, sorry, we're all gonna go with Tessa. And I'm like stuttering because I feel bad and I don't want to whatever. And Dave's just like, all right, where's my wages? Like, he was just so ready to like
ready
get
to
started.
Break hearts. Yeah, people's dreams are on the line, and it's like, okay,
oh my God,
let's move on.
Yeah, he was great though. And like when we finally did that, and we went to I remember we went to the Performance Center in Florida first to like kind of get all the moves down, and Dave and I had to come up with them because they wanted to take the actual match was maybe like, I don't know, 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. And we needed to extend it to like 5 to 6 minutes. And Dave and I were trying to come up with the fillers, right? And like the important parts. So we needed to go to the Performance Center for that. And when people saw me there, initially, like everybody's like, oh, is she getting signed? Like, oh my God, like dirt sheets. So, but then when they ended up finding out that it was for something completely different, everybody was like, whoa. Like I remember getting turned down every single time I went into the Performance Center for a try. Every single time. And then when they booked me for this though, I remember them saying, oh, well, The Rock like booked her for this movie. I mean, he must obviously think that she's got something. Okay, let's see what this is about. And at that point, I knew, I was like, you have something to prove. So I was like, all right, cool. So fast forward, we went to LA. We did the training with like all the actresses because we had to train not just the main actress, but then all the other ones too, because there was like other like wrestlers in the movie. So we had to train them as well. And it was challenging because anybody who's just starting out in a small time frame, it's going to be challenging regardless because it's such an involved thing. Wrestling is just such a there's so many years of training and honing your craft that goes into becoming what you end up becoming. And we had a small window. So, but they worked their asses off. Every single one of them did. And I remember all of them said this gives us a whole newfound respect for wrestlers because we had no idea what really went into it. Even Vince Vaughn. So Vince Vaughn had played the coach in the movie. And he came to training one day. I was like, why is he here? Why is he here? And I see him and he's like in like socks and flip-flops. And he's like, all right, I want you to teach me how to do this. I want to run the ropes. I want to take bumps. I want to do everything. He's like, if I have to play this role, like I really want to like see what it's like to do this. And I was like, And I look over at Dave and he's like, right away, he was like, yeah. He's like, let's freaking do this. So I was like, Dave, oh my God. So, but he did it. He ran the ropes. He took all the bumps that we do. I even taught him how to do a flip bump, which is like a standing flip and you land flat on your back. Like he was really good. We were both pleasantly surprised. We're like, wow, not only is it big that you came to try this, but then also doing really well.
Yeah.
So that was cool. And then the day that we actually had to do the filming, mind you, throughout this process, I'm getting more nervous and more nervous because it's coming up. And I know, okay, this day is filming day.
Yeah.
And, you know, or these few days are filming days. But the first one is like in front of 22,000 people. Never been in front of a crowd that big before.
Wow.
So, but every day I would get like motivation from Dwayne to go, okay, it's okay. You got this. Like you're our star. Like you got this. Like he would always like pump you up and make you really feel like no matter what happens, like it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And the day that we filmed, we had 45 minutes to get it. That was it. Just and it was right after Monday Night Raw. So the crowd is like, you know, they thought they were getting ready to leave, but then all of a sudden they heard Dwayne's music and everybody freaking lost it. Like, oh my God. It was crazy seeing the crowd like levitate.
Yeah.
And it was insane. And I remember thinking, I was like, man, no other person can move a crowd like he can. He's like God, and he can move people and crowds of people, like a sea of people. Like it was just one. It was crazy. And he told them, okay, guys, you're gonna be like in my movie because we're doing this thing and whatever. So he's telling them, he's getting them all pumped up.
Yeah. And
my heart is just pounding because I know he's coming back soon.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh God, like even now talking about it, I'm like, oh God, oh God, oh God. But because I'm in Gorilla and I see Triple H is there, who's also in charge of the hiring process. Stephanie McMahon is there. And I was like, oh God. And then I see X-Pac's there. And then like there's like a few other people, like Dwayne's like his manager and his agent and like all these people. And I was like, oh God, okay. I was like, you're AJ. You don't give a shit about anything. Like you're AJ, that's it. And I had to keep like getting it in my head. And because I remember there'd be times where like if we were in training, Dwayne would just be like, all right, cut me the promo. Do it. You know, and it didn't matter who was around, like you just did it. And he would just help me find her. He's like, well, what made her her? What made her tick? Why did she move like this? Why did she talk like this? Like what made AJ Lee her? And not just the character, but what made April AJ Lee? And that's where like it really helped me kind of get into her brain, you know? So and the director would always say, oh my God, it's so scary how you can do her voice. Like, exactly. He's like, it's really scary. And so we went out, and as soon as I heard AJ's music, you could see too, when I'm walking out, that I'm like slightly nervous. But then when the crowd just like lost it, they didn't lose it because they thought I was her. They did because they knew they were in a movie.
Of course.
So,
of course. That's still a big moment for you being in the crowd of a film. You know, suddenly like, whoa, I need to, this is my moment for those people.
Yeah. So it was cool because they embraced me as if I was her. And that made it so much easier. So then I went out, I did the match. Oh my God. I did the match with, well, first I cut the promo. Like I did her full promo. No screw ups, which I was really happy about.
That's
to
awesome.
The point where people in the crowd who filmed it thought that I was talking over a recording of AJ. Yeah. Wow. I was like, yeah. So then, you know, I did the promo. I did the match, I think 4 times, twice with the actress and twice with the stunt double. I'm drenched in sweat at this point. And then the last thing that I had to do was like scream, because that was like me losing my title. So it was like, you know, and that was like a legit scream. It felt like a release, you know? And when they yelled cut, I remember just like falling to my knees and just crying because I was like, man, it was like so cool, because I was like, man, if I never even get a chance to be in WWE, this was enough. This was everything that I hoped it would be. Technically, I held a title, and technically, like, you know, so it was really cool. And then afterwards, like I saw Dwayne, like went over to his locker room, and I was just crying, and he was just telling me, he's like, your dad would be so proud of you, and I'm really proud of you. And it was just like the best experience all around. Like it's something that I'll never forget. It was just something that you can dream about to happen, you know? So
and you get to
it's
watch it back. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like it's one thing to be in that scenario, but it's another to feel that energy again.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really poignant, something that you brought up earlier about having that sort of chronic overthinking and being like, am I ever going to be able to be that number one person rather than that side character, that side role? So
Right.
it's really amazing to hear about Dwayne motivating you to have that moment of recognizing, like, I can do this. And I think that moment of cut is like symbolic of you being able to realize, like, hey, I am the main character in what I do. Which
Yeah, that
is,
was the first time I ever felt like that. That's funny you say that.
yeah. So that's incredible.
Yeah.
How many times did you watch that that final that bout? Because obviously I saw it in prep for this as well. I rewatched the actual like page one of Rhea doing it and stuff.
Yeah.
So how many times do you think you watched that in preparation for
Oh, the I like the match
her?
in the promo?
Well, her fight with AJ Lee for the
Like
title.
at least, not even kidding, 80 times. At least. At least, because I listened to the voice over and over and over again. I remember it was like, no, it had to be more than 80 because it was like every day at least like 12 times I would hear it just like throughout the day, trying to get her little like inflections like this and the way that she moves her mouth and talks and she's over exaggerating, and you know what I mean? It's just even that little thing that she does. It was like I needed to add those things in there because that's what kept it authentic, because a lot of people are like, oh my god, she didn't wear the outfit, blah blah blah. It was a preference for the movie. Like the directors wanted to show because it wasn't just for wrestling fans. That's what people mistake in their very entitled minds, that it was just for wrestling fans. It wasn't. It was for everybody to enjoy. Like people who don't even know what wrestling is, for them to go, okay, there's a huge difference between this girl and this girl. I know that she's the good guy, she's the bad guy. They look different. You know, and that's really why they did it. It wasn't because of, oh, it was copyrights, or oh, it was this, or I think I know what I'm talking about. No, it really was just that. And you know, for someone who and for AJ to even go, I remember she tweeted me saying something like, oh wow, that's like the hottest I've ever looked, that's so cool. You know. You know, it was really cool for her to like say some like really cool and positive things about it too, because and then she then said she's like, you made a really great me. She's like, it was really cool to watch you do that, but what's even more special is that now, because this was after I got hired, she's like, now you get to be the first you.
That's
and it's
amazing.
going to be even better. Yeah. So
I like that you brought up about it. It's not just for wrestling fans, that film. It was very much for the moviegoer and stuff.
Yeah.
And speaking of people that weren't wrestling fans, we'll talk about the writer and director Stephen Merchant, who is in my eyes, a national treasure.
Yes.
So could you tell me your experience about sort of when it came to the directing and stuff like that? Did you ever get to talk to him much, or how much direction did he give you in terms of what he was doing for the movie?
He was involved the entire time. Like from beginning to end, he wanted to make sure everyone was good, everyone was taken care of, everyone was comfortable. If they had questions or whatever, like he wanted it to be as authentic as possible. And I think knowing that I was, besides Dwayne, the only other like real wrestler there, he always came to me for, hey, is this real? Is this right? Would this seem right? Would this seem weird to people? Or like if someone as a wrestling fan is watching this, would they believe that this is the scenario? Like, so I think that's something I really appreciated, because they wanted to make it as authentic as possible. And knowing that I knew Paige, they also were like, you know, and Florence, that was another person, incredible. She tried her best to not only just be Paige, but to get pointers from me and from her to try and make it really authentic. I think that was the biggest thing, is make this as authentic as possible. And Steven, I remember like there was times where hearing the promo, that was the one he was like, wow, that's really crazy that you can do that voice. Or like, you know, oh, can you can you change this about it? Or can we add this line to it? Can I hear you talk like that? Can I hear, so, but after everything was done the first night, he was the first person who, like, when I rolled out of the ring, he gave me a big hug, and you could see, like, there's this picture of it too, where I'm like we're pulling apart after the hug, and he's like giant,
He
and I'm
is a
this
giant
tiny
of a
little
human being. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm this tiny little thing, and he was like, you did amazing. Like, he was so supportive of everybody.
Yeah.
I can't say anything, like, he was just amazing overall. Like, I have nothing but great things to say about him. He was so cool to work with, to learn from, and he's someone that you like have a good experience with, and you think you hope everything is going to be like when you worked with him. So he was great.
That's really amazing. The fact that it's funny to me as well that you went from being a Divas champion and acting like the bad guy, I guess, to then going into a role playing Zelina and again acting like the bad guy, I guess, and moving forward from that.
I've mostly been the bad guy my whole career, actually, which is funny, but yeah. I don't think I've really been a good guy.
I was going to say, do you think there would be a moment where you'd embrace like an enlightening moment of being like, I see the light, I now want to be on the good side? Is there ever a part of you that's wondered how Zelina would be with that kind of thing?
I do. I think that it would be interesting to see that side of her, because no one has ever seen that side of her, and it's something that there's different layers to her, so, like, yeah, it's like, okay, she's bitchy, she's selfish, she's this, but when you get down to the core, there's a reason why. And I think that for me, or for even Zelina, my story of my dad is known, but that's the core. That's what people don't realize is, like, the seed that started all of, like, the protection layers around it, is because it's so sacred, and it hasn't been touched yet. And I think as people start to peel back those layers and they get to the root of it, that's where the good guy would come from.
You mentioned about having been a title holder, like being the champion as such, as AJ Lee, and obviously you've had a tag team championship or holding onto the belts too. Is that something that is part of the dream, being able to have your own belt and hold it as your own, in your own right, as a title holder, a champ?
Yes, 100%. That's always been part of the dream for me, is to be able to say, like, because I've always been a part of it with someone or for some reason. So even being Divas champion, you're that because of AJ, or you were, part of NXT champion because of Andrade, or you were a tag team champion because of Sarita. But I've always wanted to have one for my own, and because of my own, you know what I mean? Like, because of your own merit, like, that's why you got it, or your own hard work, and that's what it brought it to just you. It's not you and someone.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a part of it.
When it came to having you had a title match against Asuka, what's it like when it comes to the prep work for something like that? Do you know going in, hey, this is the result? Is there a moment where you hear that and go, oh man, I thought this was my moment? They mentioned the title chance. Like hearing how it's going to play out. Is there that moment of being like, oh, I thought this was my time? or do you just go, hell yeah, I'm ready for what's coming in terms of the work?
I want to answer that in 2 seconds. Can I just run to the restroom?
Of course you may. Absolutely. We've been talking for such a long time in that regard. I'll probably cut this, but I'll talk to myself whilst I have the opportunity to. It's really incredible. My experience, I guess, of watching wrestling has been since I was about sort of 8 years old. I guess I was a young pup watching the old classics back when it was WWF, and then moved over to WWE. So I watched it into my early teens, and then naturally moved away from it. And I always had friends that would sort of talk to me about their experiences with what was going on. But being able to interview somebody not only who is the one of the smallest women that I've ever met, one of the smallest champions, I guess, too, but hearing her story of how big a person she is really inspiring. And I really hope that with this podcast people understand that she is a lot more and has a lot more depth to her character and personality than I think people may have given her credit for in the past. So
I'm back.
Welcome back. I was not talking about you at all.
Well,
so
were you?
Yeah, I was doing a little brief synopsis. I might throw it in there into the podcast, but just talking about my experience, I guess, of meeting you, and all that stuff. Obviously, we've been talking for quite some time, and I really appreciate just being able to talk to you about all this stuff.
Yeah, no, it's been fun.
You recently found out that you've got an action figure coming out, or is it out now, or
yeah,
is this something
so
we can talk about, or should do I need to cut
this? No, we can. I definitely want to get to the Oscar question though, because I think that's
oh yeah, of course,
pretty funny
we'll get back to that. I forgot.
But so I think it is coming out. I don't think it's out yet. Let's see what day it is. Today's the 15th. I don't think it's out yet. It's supposed to be in Target, unless it is. But I know some people are saying that it's in Target. Like it's a Target exclusive.
Okay.
It's my first single action figure, because before I had one with Andrade, and now this is my own. I have my jacket, my crown. Like it's my very first one. So it's really cool, and it's done really well. Like they did a really great job with it, Mattel. So
that's awesome.
It's I want to see it. The problem is with my last one, I was able to get it through like Ringside. It was like Ringside Collectibles. I was able to get it through them. But this one, because it's Target exclusive, it's kind of like, if you see it, you get it, and that's it. So some people I know are gonna like snatch it up, get it on eBay, and sell it for like crazy money. But I'm like, oh, and I even told people on Twitch, see it, just get me one, because I like the Target by me does not stock up very much on their action figures. So I was like, if you see one, let me know, because I need one. I at least need one, just one. So yeah, I'm hoping I get to see it though, like in person.
It is a weird experience. Like I have t-shirts and merch and stuff like that, but I also don't own my own merch. It's
oh really?
Yeah, the reason I put the merch out there in the first place wasn't to be like, hey, I need to make a big cut out of this. It was so that people who wanted a shirt could have a shirt. That for me was the big thing. So I still find it a bit funny, I guess, in some respects, that it's like I haven't got my own merch that's out there. But
that's cool though.
But yeah, when it comes to an action figure, I think that would definitely be something that I'd also want to have. At moment.
Yeah.
So yes,
for sure.
So
especially because they chose a good one too. Like they chose a good outfit too.
To go back to what we were saying about your title bout with Asuka. So yeah, what was that moment like in terms of hearing firstly that it was I guess leading up to that, building up to being like, hey, this is a title shot that you're getting, and then how it feels, I guess, being on the side of not rejection, but how it plays out, I guess, when it comes to the script. How does it feel experiencing what you experience going through that process?
So when they initially told me what was happening, I thought to myself, okay, they're splitting me up from Andrade, which is weird because he's like my brother. Like he's a part of everything that I did, like whether it was he was like the yin to my yang. Like I feel like I couldn't do anything without him, and he felt like he couldn't do anything without me. Like it was just a comfortable situation.
Yeah.
You know, and we felt powerful together, and we were like, it was fun. But it's always scary when you go into a different transition in your career, you know? So when they told me that we were going to be splitting up, I was like, oh man, okay. It's like nerves, but then they're like, oh, also you're going to be challenging Asuka for the women's championship. And I was like, how could you guys do that? You just like call me with this like sad news, and then you like hit it with something else. It's like, I remember saying, I was like, do you know who you're calling? And they're like, yes. And I was like, you know, this is Zelina, right? And they're like, yeah. So I was like, okay, if you're sure. So when I got to TV, I still didn't think it was going to happen. I was like, okay, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, so you're going to do this with Asuka today. And it's going to be like, she's cutting her, or she just finishes the match. You come out, cut this promo on her, and then you slap the taste out of her mouth, and then you leave. And I was like, oh, sure. Okay. Cool. So I didn't, still to the point where I was walking out, I was like, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen, and I'm not going to be able to do. And I was so nervous because, and what's weird is I never get nervous when it comes to promos, ever. So it was just this one time where I'm alone now, and everything is on me now.
It's you,
and I have
as
to,
well at that point. You know, it's not AJ Lee walking out there. It's you walking out there.
Yep. So that's where it became hard. And I was like doing things I had never done. Like I remember like there was like a restroom that was like kind of far away from everybody. And I was in there just going over my lines over and over. And it's like, you don't even do this. You just like kind of look at the thing quick and you go, all right. You know? So I was clearly nervous. And but by the time that happened and I slapped her, it like, I remember it was like trending on Twitter and people were like, oh my God, I can't believe they're actually going to give her this like shot or whatever. And everybody was like, oh yeah, sure. She's just a manager. It's not going to be a big thing. Asuka's going to finish her in 2 minutes. It'd be easy. Right. That's what I thought too, guys. Up until they were like, you know, they called me again and they're like, yeah, so your match with Asuka is first and it is, or second, and it's 15 minutes. I was like, 15 minutes? That's a lot of endurance you gotta have for someone that hasn't wrestled in a while. Because as a manager, like you don't really get a chance to be wrestling that much.
Yeah.
So, but knowing me, I was like, okay, well, I have to put on I have to, like, you have to just, you know. And I couldn't get over the 15 minutes thing. I was like, that's a lot of time in there. So much for 2 minutes of nothing. And but by the time we ended up going in there and having the match, like Asuka is incredible. Like she's definitely, if not my favorite, she's one of my favorite people that I've been in the ring with. Just she's so fluid. And even though like there's a little bit of a language barrier, you wouldn't even know it because it's like you're speaking the same language of wrestling and just how you move and, you know, so she was amazing. And she did so much for me in that match because people didn't even think that I can do some of those moves that I did in there that night. And what's funny is our time got cut and we had kind of like planned it so that things would hit at certain points. And I remember like we were in maybe the first half and then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, go home. It means like, hurry up, get to the end. And I was like, we have all this stuff that we have to, oh my God. So now I'm thinking, okay, not only are you in this position alone, doing this big match, remembering all these things, but now you have to switch everything up.
Gosh.
And now you have to figure out a way with someone who English is not her first language, somehow get to her and let her know that we're moving on and taking this huge chunk out and going to this part. Somehow in my brain, I don't know, I don't remember how I did it either. I was just like, okay, let's just follow me. And we went to that spot that we ended up in the ropes and then we just went home from there. But even in just that last sequence, people were not expecting that from me. And I think that was my favorite part because people were like, oh, what? I didn't even know that she can do that. Or I didn't even know, like, wow, she's getting really close. She almost beat Asuka. What the hell? Like, there was at least like 2 times where it was really close and Asuka sold it. So it was really cool. And then the nice thing is, even after the match, Asuka like got on the mic and was just like, she's small but she's dangerous, and she was really difficult. I took her for granted. Like, it was very much I took her for granted kind of thing. And when I got up, she went to shake my hand and I was just like, no. And I ended up like I kind of baited her in a little bit with like a bow for some reason. I baited her in with like a bow, and then she was like, "Oh," and then she went to go do it too, and then I just completely like, I don't remember what I did. I think I like kneed her in the head, and I did something else. I don't remember what it was, but after that point, I kind of like left all pissed off. And when I got to the back, everybody was really happy with it, and they're like, wow, like we had no idea. And Vince was really happy. Everyone was really happy about it, So then I was like, okay, that was really cool. And then they're like, cool, because now you have to do it again tomorrow. And I was like, God. But I was ready for it at that point. I was so like on cloud 9 just from being in that position anyway. So I think really I wasn't disappointed at all that I didn't win. I was just grateful for the opportunity to be in the position with her for that title and to be looked at as someone that could have a championship. So it's it was a really cool experience overall. And I think too, it's like proving people wrong was always something that I got a little bit of enjoyment out of. So seeing people like tweet like, oh my god, I can't believe this actually did that. It was,
I love to hear that, like, especially that you had those moments of being like a competitor and then recognizing that you're doing it, like, how to do it. So like I feel like a lot of your stories that you've talked about today have been you realizing your own strength, and that in itself I think is something that people can learn a lot from. When it comes to here's a question from obviously scouring through your various footage and watching as many wrestling things as I can, and obviously we're going to talk a little bit more about Twitch before we end, but every experience that I've seen, whether you're Rosita or Zelina, is that when you get the W, you go in, you get the pin, and you manage to make it work, you zip out of that ring so fast. You're always immediately, you just shoot under the ropes and you're off halfway down the gang walk, the gangway. Like, what is it about not staying in the ring and sort of experiencing that moment and being like, hey, I won this? Is that just not in her character? Like that you feel like you have to get out of there, or that you've already proven what you need to prove?
It depends on how I won.
Okay.
So if it was like a quick pin where I put my foot on the ropes, or I pulled the tights, or just something that was like a shitty way of winning,
yeah,
I'm gonna get out of Dodge because I know she's gonna kick my ass.
Got you.
You know what I mean? Like, in Zelina's mind, she's like, okay, yeah, I won this, but I know why I won this, but I still got one over on you, but I'm over here now, so you can't do anything back here. So that's how that was. But the win against Mickie James, though, that one I stood in the ring for. That was a cool moment. She's a legend. So to be getting a win over someone that I also looked up to for a while was pretty cool. So I stood there for that, especially because I heard the referee going, "Stay here for the beauty shot. Stay here for the beauty shot." So
yeah, because I guess just with most of it, I had a sense that was it. That there was when it was a cheap shot and stuff, that you'd make sure you leave the ring quickly just to make sure you're not in there. But I always wondered with those moments of being like, whether or not your character owns that moment of being like, I'm bad and I know it, and I'm just gonna stand in this ring and own it for that moment.
It depends. If the guys were in there with me, I would totally do that, but from behind them. So it was like, I could just be like, hey, what's up? From back here. Yeah.
You also you mentioned before about Rey Mysterio being a massive influence on you. Again, another one of the little guys, I guess, to put it that way. What was it like, again, being able to meet these people that you've looked up to for such a long time, and being able to see what what he's been able to achieve, especially like bringing his family in and other stuff like that, to making it more about you know, that supportive storyline of people's family standing up for family. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I love Ray. He's by far, like, you know, people always say like don't meet your heroes, but I would meet Ray a million times because he's just everything that you can want in a hero. Like, he's just someone that, you know, he looks out for everybody. He makes sure that people who, like, especially with Andrade, like, he didn't have to do a lot of the things that he did because he's a veteran, you know, like, he didn't have to give so much of himself in those matches that he did. But I think also because I had known Ray, God, when did I want to meet? Maybe 2014 is when I met him initially, or 2013, something like that. And this was also because of a mutual friend. But this one I knew him. So when by the time he actually introduced us, I was still like so starstruck. I was like, wow, that's Rey Mysterio. And oh my God, I loved you for so long and you're here and now it's but he was always really cool. You know, like he wanted everybody to be taken care of. And I think that was such a big thing because even back then he was trying to get me hired, you know, like he was just like, he's like, I don't know, what do you think about coming in a mask and being like with me and stuff? I was like, that would be just everything I could have possibly wanted in life. But
that would have been a dream.
I know.
Even me and my 6'3" non-athletic build, even I'd have put on a mask and been like, yeah, I'll hang out with Ray. So.
Yeah, he's great. And then like you learn so much from him too. Like I used to do the 619 before going to WWE. So, but only because I was a big, like really big into asking the person if you could use their move because it's a dedication to them. It's paying homage to them, but you're not taking their move.
Yeah.
But when I got to WWE, I was like, I don't feel comfortable doing your move. Like, I just don't. And even when I knew I was heading there, I was like, I just don't know what to do because I love this move. And then we came up with it, instead of smacking the front of their face, you have their back to you and you swing around and you grab them kind of like in a vice grip almost, and you choke them over the bottom. You know, so it was like, you're still doing a little bit of Ray, but you're turning it into such a shitty little thing to do to somebody because you know that the referee can only count up to 5. So you have up until 4 to hold it, you know? So it's like those little things. And I think the biggest moment with him and I was when, oh my God, even just thinking about this, I was like, I can't believe you did this. But there was a ladder match that they had. And I knew at one point, and this, I remember the day going so fast, and all of a sudden it was like we were first on the show, and the match is happening, and before I knew it, I'm like, what? I'm supposed to climb that thing? Like, they told me to climb it and sit on it. That's all I had to do, is go up there and sit on it until Andrade pulled Ray off of the ladder. That's all I knew. But by the time I got up there, I remember as I'm climbing, I'm like, what do I do again? How do I get down? How do I know when to get down? So I'm sitting there, and then Ray looks up and he sees me, and it's that moment of like, I'm going, oh God, not her. So I hear him under his mask go, slap me. And I was like, what? And he's like, slap me, do it. And I was like, are you sure? He's like, do it. And he's like, so like, just freaking do it. So I slapped him, and there's still a video of me doing it. And I remember like when they zoomed in to like hear what I was yelling at him.
Yeah.
I think luckily they cut the camera at the point that they did, because first I'm like, I don't know what I said. I was like, what now, Ray? What are you going to do, Ray? Why would you tell me to slap you, Ray? But they didn't catch that part. So then Andrade pulls him down, whatever. And then I also realized, oh, Thea, you're in heels. Okay.
Oh,
so to hop off, I was like, just, hey, leap of faith. If you freaking bust your ass, that's it. You do it, whatever. So, and there's like it was like when they landed, it sent the ring to kind of bounce a little bit. Yeah. So before I could even get onto the floor, I bounced off and I just like landed, and I was like, oh my God. And then I didn't know where to go then. So I crawled into the corner turnbuckle, and I just sat there in shock. there was nothing else I could have done. I just sat there in shock, and I should have left the ring, but I didn't. I just sat there, and I was just like, you could see all these weird faces of me like in horror, like, oh my God, but it was real because I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know what to do. But that was like probably the coolest day ever, because after, when we got to the back, everybody's like, oh my God, Ray and Andrade, yay, that was so great. And everyone's clapping. And I just go straight for Ray, and I grabbed his face. I was like, are you okay? He's like, yeah. He's like, why didn't you slap me quicker? And I was just like, well, I mean, it built up the anticipation, yes, but at the same time, why didn't you tell me to do that sooner? And then his son Dominic told me that is because he didn't want me to overthink it, so he decided to tell me in that moment, not before we got out there. I was like, why? But yeah, that was cool. Ray's amazing. Nothing but good memories with him.
Are there ever moments like in that position? Obviously, you didn't know what you were gonna do, and you were like, I just need to take the leap of faith. Are there ever those moments where you're like, man, if I just moonsault off this ladder right now, I'm in the history books. Like are there those moments of like defiance where your 4'11.5" self goes, this would be epic, but then you have to restrain yourself? And
yeah, there has been. For Money in the Bank, there was. But it was also like, the thing is, with the kind of moves that I do too, that person has to be ready for it.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can't really put them in jeopardy, but at the same time, it's like, whoever it was that we were working with always said, okay, now let's get Zelina to do something. Like, they always, no matter if it was Drew or Ray or Alistair, even, like, everybody just, made sure that there was always a spot for me in there. And if they didn't think about it, Andrade would be the one to reinforce it and go, well, let's do this for her, and let's do this and make it like a big thing, and it just made a lot of sense too. Like, I remember one time too, like, I wasn't supposed to cut a promo at Madison Square Garden for the title between Ray and Andrade. And when we got out, I'm saying nothing. I know my spot. I'm just staying quiet. I'm just supposed to stand there, whatever. As soon as we get in there, I see Ray, and he goes, cut a promo. And I was like, it's like, Ray, you're going to get me in trouble. And he's like, just do it. He's like, they're not letting you talk anyway. Just do it. And I was like, are you sure? He's like, you can put the heat on me. So I was like, all right, cool. So that's when I grabbed it. And it was in my hometown too. So it was like, they didn't even let me talk, because they hated me so much at that point. It was just like, they didn't want to hear one word out of my mouth. So it built up the anticipation for their match even more. Yeah. So, sometimes you just got to trust the veterans like that,
Have you ever had a favorite line that you've said where you were like, this was awesome?
Yes. But it wasn't nice. Yeah. How did I phrase it differently so that I wasn't cursing? I had said something like I think it was Carmella. I said, even if you got your teeth fixed, your weave done, and traded in your Payless shoes for red bottoms, you still wouldn't be half the woman I am. And it was really like, it was one of those moments where even Jesus. But then same with Andrade, when I was like, I said something to, I think it was Roderick Strong at one point. I said when they're, what did I say? Something about, I said, when they're done finding perros in Lost Dog ads to find competition for Andrade, the champion, then we'll come and find you. But basically, bitches in Lost Dog ads is what I was saying. He was like just some random bitch that they found in a Lost Dog ad to find competition because he already slaughtered everyone else. Was basically what I was saying. It was really rude, but it was just, it came out. I don't know. It just, sometimes it just did, sometimes I just like went off and said whatever, but so.
Okay, to conclude, I guess, the wrestling portion, and then I'll just quickly ask you a few more questions about streaming, and then we'll look at wrapping up. What do you think would be a good wrestling name for me?
I like Getaway. I like that.
Yeah?
I think that's I think that's cool.
You don't think I should be like Gidzilla or something, like...
I think those names are so like played out at this
Cliche.
point. Yeah. Like it's gotta be it's something cool, but it's also like you gotta think about like what's that word? Toyetic, I think. Are you like, can they make you into a toy? And if they could, like what would kids grab onto? Like what would they like about it? Why would they want to buy this toy versus this toy? And like you always kind of have to think about stuff like that. So if it's one word, easy to say, but still like a almost like a, I don't want to say comic booky name, but something that people could go, okay, that's this person. That's not like John Lee or something. I don't know, like
John Cena.
You know what I mean? No, not like, you know what I mean though? Like it's not like Bill
John
something.
Smith.
It's
yeah.
John Smith. There's something simple, you know? It's like boom, there you go. And it's one word. It's easy to say, and like you have to kind of go and base your look off of that, you know?
So is there, do you think like catchphrases are played out as well in that regard?
No, I don't.
Okay, so what catchphrase would Gidwid have as a character?
I didn't even have one for myself. I had a little tough time with that. So I don't know that I'd be the perfect person to ask that, to be honest.
Okay. What would my gimmick be? I'm very I'm going down the creative route with you as to creating character creation here. What do you think would be a good gimmick to give my character?
Are you a wrestler? Are you a manager?
I'm a wrestler, you know.
Okay.
I've been bringing the heat, you know. I've been going in there, you know, trying to offer up what I can.
Are you a good guy or a bad guy?
Trying to be a bad guy, but I'm quite a good guy, you know.
Okay.
So I feel like I could be mean, but I'm not good at it, you know. That kind of character, like a caricature of someone trying to, like Stephen Merchant, you know. Being like, oh, I'm a bad guy. I'm gonna destroy you.
I could see you
legally.
Like trying to be like in a tag group, like within a group of like bad guys, but you be the one that keeps like outing them for their plans or something. Like you know what I mean? Like you can be the one that's like super down for this evil plan and then ends up just like screwing it up and then screwing it up for them, and then just having this like big storyline with them, you know, and then you guys end up going against each other. And then you have like somebody who's like a big baby face come and save you from like whatever it is that they're trying to gang up on you. Like I could see, like, say it's like, I don't know, say it's like our group, right? It was like me, Andrade, and Angel Garza. Say like you're trying to be with us, and like I had to, you know, I wanted to poison Montez Ford, and you're like, yeah, this is a super good idea. And as you're backing away, you're like, oh, by the way, did you get the poison for Montez? I feel like you might have left it in my locker or something. And then they hear it, and then they're like, damn. And then we end up turning on you. Yeah. And like all three of us are ganging up on you in the ring at once. And then John Cena comes and goes, no, and comes and saves you. And then it's a tag team match between you and Cena and Angel and Andrade. Boom.
Oh, that's awesome. Here we go. Okay, so like I'm thinking as well, like maybe like there's a trash can, you know, and they were ready. They wanted to use the trash can to hit them over the head with it, and I thought it was in a safety hazard. Sort of it was blocking a parked car that wouldn't have been able to get out, and that's just not fair, you know. So I had already moved the trash can further away, 6 feet further from the door, just to make sure that everything was legit. You know, we wouldn't want people to know that we were going to hit them with the trash can, and I forgot to put it back. So, you know, that kind of thing. So if if Gidwid, before, you know, John Cena comes in to save me, I just want to play out a little scenario of Zelina talking to Gidwid, and again, you're ready with the poison, and I have just I'm just going to accidentally tell them about the poison. We'll see how it plays out. Okay, you ready for that?
Sure.
Okay. Who are we poisoning? Sorry.
Montez.
Okay.
Yes, they have the tag team titles. We want the tag team titles. If they're weakened at Mania, it makes it way easier.
Okay. All right, that sounds like a good plan. You know, as one of the baddest guys out here, I know that with our help. Not only can we poison the minds of the youth that don't understand how good we are at things, but we can literally poison Montez, and that will be an easy victory. You know, I can hold the belt up above my head as a true bad person. You know, Andrade, what do you think about that? It sounds good, right?
Yeah, no, it sounds good, but it needs to stay here. You know, so whatever, if people come up to you and they try to figure out what's going on plan wise, because, you know, Kayla Braxton comes in and she tries to get all the inside scoop. She's a really nosy journalist.
Oh,
so
yeah,
let's
she's
just keep
lovely.
this between us. No, she's not. Let's just keep that between us, and it just doesn't go anywhere else.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how exactly are we administering poison? Firstly, I don't know many chemists, but I've watched an episode of Breaking Bad, and I know that, you know, you can get your hands on some pretty mean stuff out there that makes it look like it's the flu. You know, why don't we just take away her protective cover that she uses to sleep with, and then she'll get ill, and we'll leave the window open. How's that sound?
Maybe you should just leave it to me, because I have this all taken care of. I have somebody who knows how to handle this. So don't worry. You're just in the know. You just need to be the lookout. Make sure nothing comes our way while I do this. It makes it way easier. You just have to just be there and not, you know.
That's right. Be there and say, "Ha! You got poisoned."
None of that. No. Just be there. Make sure no one comes around, and if they do, give us a signal.
Yeah. I'm pretty good
coming.
at signal. That one's pretty good. I've been working on my getaway signals. That's right.
Well, maybe you can distract them with that, and I'll hear it, and I'll know. Okay, I gotta get out of there. So easy. Just stand there. Just stand there. Easy. Make the noise if anyone comes, and if they don't, just head on out.
In they come. They're ready. Okay, they walk over. You've got the poison ready. Hi, Montez. I like your poise and stuff. You don't know. You don't know what's coming. Okay, I'm the baddest man in town.
Coming. A match is what's coming.
Yeah,
match is what's coming.
A match to light up, to make some smoke, so that people won't be able to smell the poison that we've got in your drink. Yeah.
I don't know what he's talking about. I mean, he might have done something weird to. I mean, he's just making noises and make it seem like he put something in your drink.
Poison.
Maybe you should just
making poisons.
Check it.
Yeah. Well, you told me a minute ago that when
no one told you anything. No one told you anything.
I thought we were.
No. I would just maybe be careful around that one. Just safety precautions.
Hey, calm down. No, I didn't do anything. Okay, I didn't do. And then he comes in and saves me. And scene. Oh my god, perfect. Fantastic. Beautiful.
There you go.
There we go. Expect to see the Getaway action figure holding a pizza and some poison in the near future.
It comes in a dual pack.
It's fun. It's fun. It's fun to do that stuff. I love playing those awkward kind of characters as well. So,
see, but that's where you would shine then. And it's like your strength, and you just zoom in on that and you magnify it to like 5,000.
I just feel in terms of my look, that's kind of I look like the more awkward, nerdy guy rather than the talk down here like Batman. You know, I try, but Gotham needs me. So like it's a lot easier to do the voices, but again, I don't necessarily look the part. So
with a mask, you might.
Maybe you could be Yzma and I could be Kronk. That would work quite well as a combo, especially because you've got the cat ears right now too.
That's true.
So
that's true. Yeah.
That would be amazing. Okay, sorry, I just had to had to live out that little fantasy there of being able to be be a professional wrestler with you.
I think it'd work.
Thank you. How much does having a positive mental attitude affect your career? And again, I'm talking about with Twitch as well. How do you stay so positive and all that stuff? So,
I think having a really strong like foundation is big for me. So like making sure that you're surrounded by positive people and just good people with your best interests. And that includes like the Twitch chat as well. Like I feel like a lot of them are super positive and really supportive. And I think that's kind of what keeps pushing you to like for lack of a better term, keep going, because you know, you have all these people that you feel like are depending on you almost, you know? So it's like it keeps you in a good positive mindset when they tell you how much you inspire them and how much you know, you've made, whether it's quarantine or just life, like life in general, easier or better in some kind of way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When it comes to that stuff, like the quarantine and all this stuff, the fact that you've been able to stay so positive and affect so many people's lives, I think is what's so incredible. And obviously, you're going through a transitional period in your life right now. Let's just say that. But I know that there's going to be really big things for you on the horizon. And again, I'm not saying that based on any sort of inside scoop. This is just in general. I just know from you being that positive person that you are, that I think they'd be foolish to not hand you a championship title at some point in your life.
Thank you.
And I really do hope Zelina can turn it around at some point. I would genuinely love to see her character highlighted with the kind of depth of character that you have
Thank you.
as well. So yeah, just to sort of finish up, if there are people out there that do want to follow their dreams and achieve greatness, what piece of advice would you give them? Obviously, I heard recently as well when we were talking that you always tend to say yes to things when it comes to opportunities, and like obviously we're sitting here right now having that discussion. Obviously you have your morals and your ethics as well, and you've always been very open about saying no if you didn't feel comfortable doing something, but you've always been open to saying yes to opportunities as well. So what kind of advice would you give to people that are looking at either starting up or in that position like you were, struggling, not knowing whether or not to continue going? How do they have their Dwayne Johnson moment?
I would say to definitely just put yourself out there as much as possible. And even if it feels uncomfortable and even if it feels like, you know, awkward or in some weird way, I feel like those are the moments where it pays off the most. And, you know, again, I was we talk about the Dwayne Johnson moment. I was extremely uncomfortable and like nervous, and everything in my body was like, oh my God, you know, and shaking inside. But that's the moment that made a difference, you know? So definitely that. And just don't take no for an answer, because when you're told that you're not the expectation and you carve out your own for what the expectation is or becomes, it's way more satisfying. Because I was told you're too short, you know, your endurance isn't there, or you're not blonde or tall or whatever. And I ended up accomplishing the dream that I wanted to because of who I was, not because of who I was trying to be. So I think definitely just finding and then finding what works for you, because being that character for me worked for me, but it may not work necessarily for someone else. So if you are this person who maybe you're nice and you don't curse and you enjoy, you know, this kind of video games, and, you know, you're not playing those even though they're super popular, and you're just really staying true to you, you're going to end up like being way more authentic and maybe blowing up for that same reason, you know? And whether it's in gaming, whether it's in wrestling or acting or whatever it is, I think the biggest thing is just staying true to you and your morals and just like putting yourself out there as much as possible. And if you have a dream, just never take no for an answer, because it took me 8 years to get to WWE and I made it. So.
And you weren't afraid to speak up about how you feel as well. And I think that's important to point out, that you've always stood up for yourself. I think that's really positive. So that's really great too. In terms of where do you see yourself in the next 5 years from now? You, Thea Trinidad.
I think the nice thing is not knowing, because I don't. And I think that that's, even if, because everything that I thought that I was going to be at this age, back when I was 10, 15, even 20, is completely different, So where I think, or where I thought I was going to end up, I ended up being at in a way better position, a way better place in life. I didn't think I was going to be married. I didn't think
with
that
6 cats.
With 6 cats, yeah, I didn't think that was going to be the case. But things just end up coming to you when they're supposed to, and it could be literally anything. And I think that's the exciting thing about life, is that's why I don't look into psychics, or I don't look into, because I don't want to know. I want to know that this is what I feel I should be doing in my life. And, I'm going to let everything else come as organic as possible, because that's when I feel like it's meant to be. So don't push the issue, I guess, is like, whatever issues you have, don't push for that to be the case. If it's not meant to be, it won't be. But if it is, it'll come no matter what.
Yeah. And I guess what's interesting as well is, like, obviously we've talked about you going back in line with the Hardy brothers, the Hardy boys. So you had that moment of that opportunity, but at the same time then almost felt like you missed an opportunity of meeting Dwayne, and then it came back around and you took the opportunity that time. I think it's important to know that it, like you said, if it's meant to be, it will come. The time will be right for you. And that's talking from a guy that's currently, on a podcast that has less than 400 subs, and I've been talking to Zelina Vega about poisoning people as a professional wrestler. So, it's definitely possible to achieve your dreams.
For sure.
And all that stuff. Let's just once more give out your socials, just to make sure if people didn't hear them the first time, as to where they can find you now.
So my Twitch, my Twitter, and my Instagram is all at Thea Trinidad. And my YouTube is Thea Trinidad.
One more question for you. Would you come back?
Of course. Yeah.
It's always a question I like asking people.
Yeah. No hesitation there.
Awesome. Honestly, the time's flown by. We've been talking for 3 hours, which is awesome.
Hey, beat their last record though. Hey.
So, yeah, it's true. Me and Nogla did talk for about 3 hours as well. So, and the thing is the great thing is I feel like I've barely scratched the surface in terms of talking to you about all the amazing things that you've done in your career and what you'll continue to do. So, I'm just very grateful that I've been able to talk to you and not be beaten up by your husband for doing so. So,
he's a big teddy bear anyway. Don't tell anyone.
Absolutely. No, it's very obvious that he's a big teddy bear from watching any of the stuff of you guys together. So beyond,
he's the best.
Beyond that, so all the best to both of you in terms of your careers, and I can't wait to have you back on the show sometime. And for anybody watching, if you want to find me on socials, it's Getawid on pretty much everything. And then for the podcast itself, search up Streamer Consciousness. That's streamer like live streamer, and then consciousness is in the long word that you can look up. So check that out. And then on Twitter, it's at Caster Minds as well. So Streamer Consciousness on Spotify, all those other platforms as well, all those other podcasting platforms, and then at Caster Minds on Twitter. Thank you so much, Thea, and thank you guys for watching. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Thank you so much.